We are KB and Jasmine, and welcome to Beyond the Silver Screen.
Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to try to figure out why James Cameron is considered one of the greatest directors of all time.
Oh, yeah. He's definitely earned that title.
I think so, too. Get ready, though. This will be a wild ride.
Right.
We're diving deep into the mind of a man who just pushes boundaries and delivers those groundbreaking films.
Yeah, and raises the bar every time.
Go for it,
It's
yeah.
cinematic storytelling.
Totally. And he's the guy who went from driving trucks,
Really?
yeah, to directing like some of the highest grossing films of all time.
It really is extraordinary. I mean, his story is anything but ordinary. The thing that always gets me is how he managed to pair that ambition
Yeah.
with a deep passion for exploration and innovation.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Especially, when it comes to technology and filmmaking.
That's such a good point. It's like he's always trying to figure out what's possible
Yeah.
in terms of telling a good story,
Mhm.
but also the technology behind telling it. It all started with his childhood, fascination with the apocalypse. I mean, who starts thinking about the end of the world at 8 years old?
It's pretty fascinating when you think about it. That interest in these apocalyptic scenarios, really tells you a lot about how he thinks creatively.
Uh-huh.
Because he's not just interested in showing the end of the world.
Right.
He wants to know, what happens when we face a crisis? How do humans react? What choices do we make?
Oh, okay.
And you can see this in so many of his films, like Terminator, Aliens, even Titanic. He just puts these characters in these really extreme situations and forces them to face, their own mortality, their fears, and ultimately their humanity.
I see. So it's not just about blowing stuff up, you're saying.
Oh, no, not at all.
It's about exploring what makes us human under pressure.
Exactly. And you know what's even more interesting? He paired that with this really hands-on approach to learning as a kid.
Like, what do you mean?
I mean, he built a trebuchet as a kid.
Oh, wow.
That's not your average childhood hobby.
Yeah, I was more into Legos personally. But, when you put it like that, this desire to build and experiment,
Yeah,
to figure out how things work,
exactly.
it all kind of makes sense for his filmmaking.
Yeah.
It's like he's got this engineer brain, it's constantly trying to solve problems,
Uh-huh.
whether it's figuring out how to film underwater dialogue for The Abyss
Right.
or creating the liquid metal T-1000 from Terminator 2.
Absolutely. And that problem solving, it totally extends to how he learns. I mean, he didn't go to film school.
Oh, really?
He taught himself basically by just reading technical papers at USC's library.
Wow. Talk about a self-starter.
Yeah.
So he's got this natural curiosity
Yeah.
and drive to learn,
Yeah.
and he's not afraid to, go his own way.
Definitely a nonconformist. And that really comes through when he starts working at Roger Corman's New World Pictures,
Uh-huh.
which was a total breeding ground for these young, up-and-coming filmmakers. And it was known for being, low-budget, fast-paced productions.
Wait a minute. So the guy who directed Avatar, this massive, visually stunning epic, got his start making B-movies.
He did. But, those early experiences were really important for the way he approaches filmmaking now.
Right.
He learned to be resourceful and to get the most out of these, really small budgets.
Yeah.
And think outside the box to, figure out those creative problems.
I remember hearing a story about him pitching this idea to use front projection for Battle Beyond the Stars.
Oh, yeah.
Even though he'd never even used the technique before. Is that true?
It is. And that's Cameron in a nutshell, He sees a challenge and he dives right in, even if it means going into uncharted territory.
Wow.
This fearlessness is a constant in his career, and it's a big part of what makes him so innovative.
So he's not afraid to fail. It's more that he's interested in testing those limits and just seeing what's possible.
Exactly. And you see that drive, that need to direct, to be in control of the creative process, even back in those days, like in Galaxy of Terror, for example.
Isn't that one where the guy cuts off his own arm?
Yes.
Pretty messed up.
Oh, yeah. It was low-budget horror, but Cameron saw it as a chance to experiment, to create a scene that people wouldn't forget. And it worked.
It's like you can take even the most basic idea and make it something really special.
You really can.
But then everything changed with the Terminator.
That's where everything clicked, the vision, the talent, the drive. It's wild to think this whole iconic film came from a fever dream while he was working on Piranha the Second.
What?
Imagine this chrome torso dragging itself across the floor, and that image just sparked one of the greatest sci-fi films of all time.
That's one way to turn a bad experience into cinematic gold.
It really is.
But he didn't just have the idea. He also had like the guts to bet on himself. I mean, he made that $1 deal with Gail Ann Hurd just so he could direct the film.
That's that independent spirit again. He believed in this vision so much that he was willing to risk everything to make it a reality.
Yeah.
And it totally paid off.
Big time. The Terminator launched his whole career.
Yeah.
It redefined sci-fi.
Total.
That mix of action, suspense, and these really thought-provoking themes, it just resonated with people everywhere. And we can't forget the casting either. I mean, he picked Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, yeah.
Who was known for his muscles at that point.
Right.
To play the Terminator. And it was brilliant. He turned this bodybuilder into like this terrifying machine, this icon.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, he cast Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor. And created this really powerful, complex woman in a genre that was, and honestly, I think still is, dominated by men.
You're right. That commitment to strong female characters, that's another thing that makes Cameron stand out. You've got Ripley in Aliens, Sarah Connor in Terminator 2, even Rose in Titanic.
Yeah.
These are women who defy stereotypes. They fight back. They drive the story.
It's like he's actively going against the norm in Hollywood.
He is. It's not just about representation.
Right.
It's about creating characters who are believable and compelling no matter what their gender is. He empowers his female characters and gives them agency and complexity that you don't usually see in action films.
You have to wonder if more directors did that.
Yeah.
How different would Hollywood look?
It's a great question.
But speaking of defying expectations, let's talk about Aliens. I mean, following up on Ridley Scott's masterpiece, that had to be intimidating.
Oh, totally.
But Cameron didn't just want to repeat the horror of the original.
Right.
He wanted to explore the themes of war, to draw those parallels to the Vietnam War.
Yes.
And create a sequel that was both like a worthy successor, but also its own unique film.
Exactly.
I love how he took this sci-fi horror thing and basically turned it into a war movie. But without losing that suspense and terror from the first film.
Exactly. He just expanded the world, introduced new characters, deepened the whole mythology. He made the action bigger, the stakes higher, and the emotions deeper. It's really amazing how he could take something so iconic and make it his own.
Absolutely. And of course, we can't forget that creative back and forth he had with Sigourney Weaver. It's fascinating how their collaboration, even when they disagreed, led to a much richer and more complex Ripley.
And, you know, Cameron's known for being a tough director, but he's also open to collaborating. He knows that good ideas can come from anywhere on set.
So it's not about him forcing his vision on everyone. It's about creating a space where everyone can contribute.
Exactly. He gets the best out of the people he works with.
Yeah.
And for Aliens, it resulted in this film that just blew everyone away.
Yeah.
The production design, the practical effects, all done on a tight budget and a crazy schedule. It just shows how he can lead a team to create something truly spectacular.
It's amazing. Now that brings us to The Abyss.
Okay.
He decides he wants to film underwater dialogue scenes. For the first time ever in a feature film, this is the guy who never backs down from a challenge.
That's right.
He had to invent new diving helmets and underwater communication systems, and then film in this massive water tank.
It's crazy.
Pushing everyone to their absolute limit.
It's like he wasn't just making a movie.
Right.
He was pushing the limits of what was physically and technologically possible.
This seems to be a pattern with him, right?
Definitely.
This desire to not only tell a great story, but to do it in a way that's never been done before.
It's like this endless well of ambition and determination.
And it's incredible. What's remarkable to me is that he never loses sight of the story itself. With all this amazing technical stuff.
Right.
The Abyss isn't just visually impressive. It's a story about human connection, about our relationship with the unknown, and about the possibility of hope, even in the darkest places.
Exactly. That's what makes him different. He can give you groundbreaking visuals.
Yeah.
And thought-provoking themes. But before we get into Terminator 2 and the world of CGI, let's take a quick break. We'll be back to continue our deep dive into the career of James Cameron. And you know, when you think about all the challenges he had with The Abyss,
Oh, yeah.
it really makes you appreciate the CGI in Terminator 2. Judgment Day.
Totally. Like all those problems on The Abyss got him ready for that amazing liquid metal T-1000.
It's true.
That scene where he like morphs through the bars
Oh, I know.
still gives me chills.
It really was a turning point for visual effects.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have happened without Cameron pushing for innovation.
Right.
He worked with ILM and pushed them to make something completely new. And it was pure magic.
It really was. And it wasn't just about how cool it looked. The T-1000 was perfect for the story.
Right.
He was this unstoppable force of nature.
Totally.
Like he represented the future that Sarah Connor was trying to stop.
Exactly. He took the classic villain and made him even scarier, more relentless.
Yeah.
But I think the genius part was turning the T-800 into the good guy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was bold to take Schwarzenegger, who everyone knew was the bad guy,
I know.
and flip the script.
I remember being a kid when I saw that. I was like, wait, the Terminator's a good guy now. It was brilliant.
It really added a whole new layer to the story.
It did. And we can't forget about Linda Hamilton. She went from this damsel in distress to a total action hero.
Oh, yeah.
She was a warrior, both physically and mentally.
Exactly. Sarah Connor became like this symbol of female empowerment, a mom who would do anything to protect her son.
Right.
Cameron wasn't afraid to show her vulnerability or trauma,
Yeah.
but he also gave her the power to fight back.
It's such a powerful performance.
It is.
It really shows his ability to write amazing female characters.
Totally.
Okay, so we've talked about sci-fi action, underwater adventures. Now let's switch gears completely.
All right.
Historical romance.
Titanic.
The movie that broke all the records.
Yeah.
And made everyone cry.
It did.
I still remember seeing it in theaters. Everyone was sobbing.
I know.
But it's so fascinating because he didn't just make a movie about the Titanic.
Wow.
He brought it back to life.
He did.
He researched it like crazy. He dove to the wreck.
Yeah.
And then he added this love story that everyone connected with.
It's true. He didn't just recreate the disaster.
Right.
He made us feel it.
Yeah.
He put us on that ship with those characters and made us care about what happened to them.
And the detail, the costumes, the sets, the sinking.
Oh, I know.
It felt so real.
It did.
Like you were right there.
Like you were experiencing it.
And that's Cameron, right? Always going for authenticity.
He is.
Never cutting corners.
Yep.
He wants the best, and it shows.
It really does.
He's a total perfectionist.
Yeah.
But even with all the technical stuff, he never forgets about the people at the heart of it all.
Right.
The love story between Jack and Rose, that's what makes Titanic more than just a disaster movie.
Totally.
It's about love and loss.
Yeah.
And the human spirit.
And that's what makes him so special.
Yeah.
He can give you spectacle and emotion at the same time.
He can make you jump out of your seat and then cry a minute later.
Yeah.
No many directors could do that.
He's a true master storyteller. There's no doubt about it.
He is.
But he didn't just do blockbusters, right? He also tried other genres. Oh, yeah. Like True Lies.
Yes. The spy
The
comedy.
Orange Days.
The cyberpunk thriller.
It's true. He's always challenging himself,
Yeah.
trying new things.
Yep.
And even though those movies weren't as big as his other ones, they show how much range he has.
And how willing he is to take risks.
And we can't forget about his love for the ocean.
Oh, right.
He didn't just make movies about it.
Yeah.
He became a deep-sea explorer.
He did.
Led expeditions to the Titanic and the Bismarck.
It's amazing. He doesn't just imagine these worlds.
Yeah.
He has to see them for himself.
Yeah.
And that shows in his film.
It feels so real.
It's like his life is this big adventure and he's letting us come along.
And speaking of adventures, let's talk about Avatar,
Okay.
the movie that changed 3D.
Yeah.
He had the idea for years, but he waited for the technology.
And it was revolutionary.
It was. Avatar had everything.
It did.
Visual effects, storytelling, pushing boundaries.
It was all there.
It was this epic sci-fi adventure that you could just get lost in. It was beautiful and engaging.
I remember watching it in 3D and feeling like I was on Pandora,
Oh, yeah.
flying with the Banshees.
I know.
It was incredible.
It really changed how we think about world building in movies.
And it wasn't just about how it looked.
Right.
He also had these really powerful themes about the environment and colonialism.
Yeah.
He made us think about our relationship with nature and each other.
He's always making us think,
He is.
question what we believe,
Mhm.
and see the world differently.
And he does it all through movies.
Yeah, he does.
These experiences that stay with you.
Exactly.
He's a visionary,
Uh-huh.
an innovator,
Yep.
and a master storyteller.
He is. And the crazy thing is, he's still going
I know.
with the Avatar sequels coming up.
Who knows what he'll do next?
I'm excited to see what he comes up with.
Me too. This deep dive has given me a whole new level of respect for James Cameron.
Me too.
He's a true force in cinema,
He is.
and I can't wait to see what he does next.
I didn't either.
But before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's take a minute to think about what we've learned about this incredible director. Okay, so we've gone through a lot of James Cameron's films.
We have.
We've seen his early work, the big innovations, the huge hits, and even those projects that maybe weren't as successful, but still showed us how talented he is. What do you think it all means?
You know, what always strikes me is how he's always pushing the envelope. Like, he's not satisfied with just doing what everyone else is doing.
Yeah,
He wants to break those boundaries, not just for the sake of it, but to tell stories in ways we've never seen before.
right.
He's not afraid of the unknown. He actually embraces it.
It's so true. I mean, think about it. He didn't have to dive down to the Titanic to make that film, but he did.
Yeah.
He could have taken the easy route with the Alien sequel,
Right.
but he turned it into a war movie. He's always pushing himself and everyone around him to achieve something incredible.
And it's important to remember it's not just about the technical stuff or the visuals. At the heart of it all, he's a storyteller. He knows how to connect with people on an emotional level, whether it's a love story or a fight for survival.
It's that mix,
Yeah.
the technical brilliance and the emotional depth.
Yeah.
That's what makes him different. He can make you jump out of your seat 1 minute and then have you crying the next. Not a lot of directors can pull that off.
He's a true visionary, a powerhouse in cinema, always raising the bar. And he's not slowing down. What's next for him? How will he change the future of film? It's really exciting to think about.
It is. This deep dive has been awesome. What stands out to you the most about Cameron's career? What really hit home?
For me, it's his dedication to doing the absolute best. He never settles. He pushes himself and his team to make something amazing every single time. It's really inspiring.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that if you have passion, creativity, and you're willing to work hard, you can achieve anything. So if you haven't seen his films, I can't recommend them enough. They're amazing.
And remember, it's not just about being entertained. His films challenge you to think, to question things, to use your imagination.
That's a great way to put it. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of James Cameron. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and never stop pushing the boundaries.